people see Washington as a land of towering forests, snow-covered mountains, thriving cities, and global technology giants. It feels peaceful, prosperous, and modern. But hidden beneath the evergreen landscape is a far darker story, filled with ancient rivalries, devastating epidemics, international conflicts, violent displacement, economic booms, and disasters that nearly reshapes the entire Pacific Northwest. Long before Seattle's skyline pierced the clouds, Washington was the stage for thousands of years of human survival and struggle. The state we know today emerged from conflicts and turning points that few Americans ever learn about. Thousands of years before European ships appeared on the Pacific coast, sophisticated indigenous civilizations thrived throughout the region. Along the shores of Puget Sound and the Columbia River, communities built complex trade networks stretching across vast distances. Massive cedar canoes crossed dangerous waters, while fishing villages harvested enormous salmon runs and returned every year. Wealth, influence, and survival depended on knowledge passed through countless generations. Yet, these societies were not isolated. Competition over resources and territory sometimes created tensions between neighboring groups, making the region far more dynamic than many modern depictions suggest. Everything began to change during the 18th century. European powers searching for trade routes and wealth pushed farther into the Pacific Ocean. Explorers arrived carrying unfamiliar technologies, new economic ambitions, and invisible threats. Diseases such as smallpox spread ahead of permanent settlement, devastating indigenous populations that had no immunity. Entire communities suffered catastrophic losses. The demographic collapse transformed the balance of power across the region long before many Europeans ever established lasting settlements. By the late 18th century, international competition intensified. Spain, Britain, Russia, and later the United States all eyed the Pacific Northwest. The coastline became part of a larger geopolitical contest involving trade, territorial claims, and strategic influence. Ships anchored in remote bays while maps were drawn and redrawn. Decisions made thousands of miles away in European capitals began influencing the future of a land few of those leaders had ever seen. The early 19th century brought fur traders, explorers, and ambitious commercial ventures. Rivers became highways of commerce. The Columbia River emerged as one of the most important transportation routes in the Pacific Northwest. Trading posts appeared across the wilderness, creating new economic systems that connected local resources to global markets. Beaver pelts harvested in North America eventually reached consumers in Europe. Yet the profits of empire often came at the expense of indigenous communities, whose traditional economies faced increasing disruption. As more settlers arrived, pressure on land intensified. Trails that crossed mountains and rivers became pathways for migration. Families seeking opportunity moved westward, encouraged by stories of fertile valleys and abundant resources. What seemed like opportunity for newcomers often meant displacement for people who had lived there for generations. Tensions grew as competing visions of ownership collided across the landscape. The creation of Washington Territory in 1853 marked a dramatic turning point. Government officials sought greater control over the region, while settlers demanded security and infrastructure. Negotiations, treaties, and misunderstandings shaped the political future of the territory. Some agreements promised peace and coexistence, but implementation frequently favored settlers over indigenous communities. Frustration and mistrust spread on all sides. These tensions erupted into violent conflict. During the Puget Sound War and related confrontations of the 1850s, fear, retaliation, and military campaigns transformed the territory. Communities fortified settlements, while soldiers and militia units operated throughout the region. Families lived with uncertainty as conflict disrupted daily life. The wars left lasting scars that continued influencing relationships for generations. As the 19th century progressed, railroads transformed Washington. Steel tracks connected isolated communities to national markets. Suddenly, resources that had once been difficult to transport could reach distant consumers. Timber, coal, and agricultural products fueled economic expansion. Towns emerged almost overnight along transportation corridors. The Pacific Northwest sought no longer remote frontier. It was becoming an integral part of the American economy, yet prosperity often came with exploitation. Logging camps operated in dangerous conditions. Workers faced injury, isolation, and economic uncertainty. Immigrant laborers from many parts of the world helped build industries that generated enormous wealth. At the same time, discrimination and exclusion affected numerous communities. Washington's growth story included both opportunity and hardship. When Washington officially became a state in 1589, many celebrated the achievement as a symbol of progress. But beneath the celebrations remained unresolved questions about land, power, and identity. The state's population expanded rapidly, while industries continued reshaping the landscape. Forests fell before saws, rivers were altered, cities grew larger and more influential. Then came one of the most transformative events in Washington history, the Klondike Gold Rush. Although the gold fields were largely located in Canada and Alaska, Seattle became the gateway to the north. Thousands of fortune seekers flooded through the city. Businesses expanded rapidly. Infrastructure improved. The economic benefits helped transform Seattle into a major commercial center. Dreams of sudden wealth attracted people from around the world, even though many never found the riches they sought. The 20th century brought new opportunities and new dangers. During both world wars, Washington became a strategic center for shipbuilding, manufacturing, and military operations. Factories operated around the clock. Ports bustled with activity. The state's economy diversified and expanded dramatically. Yet wartime fears also produced controversial policies, including the internment of Japanese Americans, a reminder that even democratic societies can abandon principles during periods of anxiety and conflict. Washington's aerospace industry changed the state's future once again. Aircraft manufacturing became a defining part of the regional economy. Innovation, engineering, and technological advancement attracted investment and talent. The Pacific Northwest merged as a center of modern industry, linking Washington to global transportation and commerce. Nature, however, remained a powerful force. In 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted with astonishing violence. Entire forests were flattened. Ash darkened skies across multiple states. Scientists, residents, and emergency responders witnessed one of the most significant volcanic eruptions in modern American history. The disaster served as a reminder that Washington's landscape was still being shaped by geological forces far beyond human control. The late 20th and early 21st centuries brought another transformation. Technology companies helped reshape Washington's economy. Seattle evolved into a global center of innovation. Population growth accelerated. New industries emerged, while housing, infrastructure, and environmental challenges became increasingly complex. The state gained influence far beyond its geographic boundaries. Yet the deeper story of Washington remains far more complicated than the image often presented today. Beneath modern cities lie ancient trade routes. Beneath thriving industries lie histories of conflict, displacement, resilience, and adaptation. Indigenous nations continue preserving traditions that predate the state itself by thousands of years. Historic struggles over resources, identity, and power still echo through modern debates. Washington's history is not simply a story of progress. It is a story of survival. It is a story of cultures meeting, colliding, and changing one another. It is a story of natural forces, human ambition, triumph, tragedy, and reinvention. The Evergreen State did not emerge peacefully from untouched wilderness. It was forged through centuries of transformation that continue to shape its future today. And perhaps that is the greatest hidden lesson for Washington's past. Every mountain, river, forest, and city contains layers of stories beneath the surface. The Washington most people know is only the latest chapter in a much longer history, one that is still being written.